Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Dan Hiscock, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Corporal Scott Trenham, a proud Nione man. Today's Last Post ceremony tells the story of an Aboriginal soldier as part of the National Reconciliation Week, which runs from the 27th of May to the 3rd of June. These two dates mark important milestones in Australia's journey to reconciliation. On the 27th of May 1967, the Australian public voted overwhelmingly to change the Constitution to include Aboriginal people in the census and to allow the Commonwealth to create laws for them. And on the 3rd of June 1992, the High Court of Australia made the historic Mabo decision, which acknowledged Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples' unique connection with the land. In commemorating Private William Henry Yeo, we recognise those Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander servicemen and servicewomen who have played their part in walking the path to reconciliation. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people have served in every conflict and commitment involving Australian defence contingents since Federation, including both World Wars. They came from a section of society with few rights, low wages and poor living conditions. But once in the Australian Imperial Force, they were treated as equals, paid the same as other soldiers, and generally accepted without prejudice. Despite their courage and commitment to fighting for a nation that afforded them second-class status, most came back to much the same discrimination as before. By telling their stories, we hope to come to an understanding of the depth of their sacrifice and dedication, which will in no small way illuminate the path to reconciliation. A shared history of service and commitment will unite, not divide. As we commemorate the service of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples and National Reconciliation Week and the milestones by which it is defined, we ask all Australians to be part of the next big steps in our nation's reconciliation journey. This evening, we warmly welcome the family of Private William Henry Yeo, whose story will be told shortly. We are honoured to acknowledge His Excellency General the Honourable David Hurley, Governor-General of the Commonwealth of Australia, and Her Excellency Mrs Linda Hurley. We also warmly welcome the delegation of Yugambeh elders and the Australian Army's Land Warfare Centre who are in attendance this evening. As always, we welcome the veterans who have served, those still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Service Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pulla reflection by family, visitors to the memorial and students on behalf of Yakandanda Primary School from Yakandanda, Victoria. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem.
Australians, oh let us rejoice, for we are one and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil, our home is got by sea.
If you wish to and you're able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we will read just one of the stories behind those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today, we pay tribute and remember Private William Henry Yeo. William Yeo was born about 1890 in Frogmore, a small village in the district of Barrowa, New South Wales. His father, also named William Henry Yeo, died in 1895, leaving his mother Harriet to bring up the family alone. He attended Frogmore Primary School, where he lived with his mother and his sisters, Elizabeth and Lucy. With the outbreak of war, Yeo enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force at Enoggera, Queensland on the 29th of October 1914. At this time, military regulations excluded the enlistment of persons who are not substantially of European origin or descent, with doubtful cases referred to medical officers. About a week later, Yeo was discharged. A note on his service record read, "Discharged 7th of the 11th, 14, not likely to become an efficient soldier." He again tried to enlist on the 28th of May 1915 at Enoggera, noting on his application that he had previously been discharged. Allotted to the reinforcements to the 15th Battalion, the commanding officer of the unit wrote to the camp adjutant on the 23rd of June 1915, "This man is a half-caste Aboriginal of low order of intelligence. He is slow-witted, stupid, and is not likely to become an effective soldier. He has on several occasions caused trouble in the lines, and his presence is prejudicial to good order and discipline of this unit." William Yeo was discharged on the 9th of July 1915. 2 years later, on the 3rd of January 1917, Yeo again applied to become a soldier, this time at Sydney Showgrounds, and making no mention of his previous attempts to enlist. This third enlistment in the Australian Imperial Force saw him allocated to the reinforcements of the 54th Battalion. This time, he would not be discharged. On the 24th of January, he embarked overseas service, leaving Sydney aboard the troop ship Anchises. In March, he arrived in England, where he and his comrades trained at Salisbury Plain. In June, Yeo was charged with neglecting to obey a general order, and punishment he received 7 days field punishment number 2, usually some form of heavy labour, and a fine. This would be his sole breach of military discipline to appear on his record. On the 17th of September 1917, Yeo left England, travelling to France in order to join the 54th Battalion, one of the 4 battalions that made up the 14th Brigade on the Western Front. In late September and October, he was hospitalised, suffering from bronchitis and pemphigitis, rejoining his unit in late October. He served at Ypres sector in Belgium until late March 1918, when the major German offensive saw him and his unit take up position north of Villers-Bretonneux. After a period of leave in Paris in June, early the following month, he was detached to the 14th Brigade headquarters. A few weeks after returning, on the 1st of September, the 54th Battalion was to lead an attack on Peronne, under orders to clear the area between the town and the river, and if not too strongly opposed, to take the town. The war diary for that day noted, the Germans had knowledge of the impending attack. The enemy had employed every artifice to make the front secure, and the peculiar lay of the town with its marshes, bridges and narrow streets augmented this effort so considerably as to make the complete subjugation a formidable task. Every approach was manned and covered by the innumerable winding trenches secured by deep wire entanglements, with every inch of the front covered by machine guns, were expected to be an impassable barrier. Road mines too had been laid with a cunning natural only to Germans, and which, to an extent, made our forward progress one of doubt and uncertainty. After heavy and exhausting fighting, the Australians established a stronghold on the area and forced the complete withdrawal of the Germans from Peronne. By the night of the 3rd of September, the Australians held Peronne. Lieutenant General Sir John Monash said that the Mont St Quentin and Peronne campaign furnished the finest examples in the war of spirited and successful infantry action, conducted by the 3 divisions operating simultaneously side by side. Charles Bean, Australia's official war historian, later reported that the capture of Mont St Quentin and Peronne is held by many Australian soldiers as the most brilliant achievement of the AIF. It was during this battle that William Henry Yeo, who had twice been discharged from the AIF, was killed in action on the 1st of September 1918. He was 30 years old. Today, William Yeo remains lied buried at Peronne Communal Cemetery extension underneath the inscription chosen by his mother. "The Lord gaveth, and the Lord hath taken away, for he was my darling boy." His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. A photograph of his headstone is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. This is one of but many stories of sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We remember Private William Henry Yeo, who gave his life for us, our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and sounding of the last post.
They shall not grow old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We'll leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub of Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the Last Post ceremony. On behalf of the Director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support of the Memorialist Development Project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening. Thank you.